Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Thank you for joining this GP Strategies webinar, where we'll explore best practices and innovative insights to help you and your organization improve performance.
Without further ado, I want to say hello and welcome to GP Strategies webinar, Strategies for Implementing a Coaching Culture, with our presenter, Kristen Rice. So Kristen is a leadership consultant with over 15 years in the learning and development sphere. She's partnered with clients to develop people at every stage of the leadership journey. She is an ICF certified professional coach and a creative writer. Her passion for people development includes her work as a founder of Chapter Craft Coaching, as a life transitions and empowerment coach. So with that, I know we have a really great session planned today. I am going to hand it over to Kristen to start today's session. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you so much, Kim. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you being on the line to support us all as well. Okay, welcome. I'm so glad. It's so fun to hear from people from all over. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks for your time and your attention. I love that you're here to support your organization around having some coaching culture, whether that's you're starting from scratch or it's already in place and you're looking to take it to the next level. Here's what we're going to cover today. What is coaching? We're going to make sure we're all on the same page just to get started so that we get our organization started on the same page as well. We're going to look at elements to support a coaching culture, what's needed really for it to work, and then some strategies, big and little strategies to create a coaching culture. And we're going to be generating a bunch of ideas, and I'd love to hear your ideas as well when we get there too. And then we have lots of time for Q&A at the end. So please, pop those questions in the Q&A if you want to make sure that gets asked by the end. We want to make sure that we're addressing your particular concerns, your particular challenges, your particular opportunities where you are and the coaching culture you're trying to implement. So before we get started, I have a question for you. And I want to hear this in the chat. So how comfortable is your organization with coaching today? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, 10 being totally on board, how comfortable is your organization with coaching today? And feel free to, this might be your best guess. You might not have a real clear picture into it, or you might. Best guesses are welcome too. How comfortable is your organization with coaching today? Pop that in the chat. Right, I see some answers coming in. Okay, so I got some 6s, some 4s, some 8s, lots of 6s, okay. At some levels, 3, thanks, Lynn. Some 5s, okay. 2 or 10, I love it. Make sure when you're popping something in the chat to go ahead and send that to everyone, so it's not just getting set to the host and the panelists, because everyone wants to hear your good ideas. All right, great. So a pretty wide range. No one's starting from 1, though, I'm noticing. No one's at a 10, which is totally fair as well. But that there's some action in place, it looks like, some movement in that area. As much as I would love for every organization to be fully on board with coaching and have these deeply productive coaching cultures already intact, I know that isn't a reality. I would love that it would be, but I do know that small changes can lead to really big effects. So my hope is that this webinar really inspires some ideas for you that make sense for your organization, because even a 10% increase in the comfort level with coaching and the practice of coaching can make a huge difference at your organization. Let's get started on just what is coaching. It's funny. So coaching is so much more familiar to us than it was 10 years ago, but it still carries a lot of wrong assumptions with it. So it's really helpful for us to understand what coaching is for the purpose of this webinar, but also even more importantly, as you're integrating coaching in your organizations, these are misunderstandings that people have, like just assume they're walking around with these. So they need to be cleared up there too. So let's dig in. And to do that, I want to look at what coaching is not, with the caveat that all of these are valid at times, but they are not coaching. So coaching is not mentoring. Mentoring is based on your expertise, your experience, really, your lived experience. Here's what I did to succeed. So it's not telling someone how to do or what to do something based on your own experience. It's not mentoring. It's also not consulting. So consulting is coming at, the problem from all the angles, really inspecting it, and then giving your expert recommendation. Valid at times, but totally different from coaching. And it's not therapy. Therapy is a healing modality. It's all about taking something that's not working and bringing it into a place that it is working. And these may sound obvious to you, like you know this walking around, these are not what coaching is, but I can guarantee you that the majority of folks in an organization who have not been exposed to coaching, these are their starting assumptions of what coaching is. And so it's really clear, really helpful to clarify how coaching is different. I have a few more what coaching is not. Coaching is not giving advice. So giving advice is, you should just do this, that, and the other thing. And it's really fun if you like to tell people what to do. And it is often kind of our default understanding of coaching. It's like, the coach is just going to tell me what to do, what the best option is here for me. But it is not, coaching is not giving advice. Coaching is also not leading questions. Do you think your presentation needs a little bit more humor? It's not a question that you already have an answer for that you want them to reach, right? And it's not about fixing someone. So this is a big one. When someone gets sent to coaching in an organization, there's often this little bit of a stigma that they're getting fixed. And this really undermines the coaching process, right? It really undermines trust when someone feels like they're being sent somewhere to get fixed. Right? Coaching it is really empowering. It empowers humans to access their strengths and to make conscious choices, not just reactions, which is our go-to so often. And coaching is really respectful and it's possibility making. And it's not about the coach's agenda. This might be the hardest part of it. It's not about the coach's agenda. It's about the agenda of the person being coached and supporting them in their goal. So that doesn't mean that it has to be just pure exploration with no action. I know that can be a concern in organizations that we're just going to talk about our feelings and such and not get anywhere with it. It does not have to be that. It might mean a little bit of giving up of control, though, and giving up of that holding the agenda for someone else. So what is coaching, and really, by extension, a coaching culture? Boiled down to its essence, it's really all about asking empowering questions with genuine curiosity, meaning free of an agenda, and using those really effective listening skills, which are the basics that we all know, plus empathy and even intuition. That's it's in its simplest form is what coaching is. It's simple and it's quite powerful. I see a note from Joseph for everyone. Experience a moment of coaching. You feel so liberated understanding the true process of coaching. Yeah, it's amazing. As soon as you experience it, you get it, you can talk about it, you can champion it. It gets a little fuzzy and nebulous before you've had an experience with it, perhaps. Because it's really unusual, actually, to have someone hold your agenda and listen so closely and deeply to you and be able to ask empowering questions so that you are able to find your way toward the goal that you want. That's actually that's a really unusual experience in life. Even just being listened to that closely is not a common experience, right? So let's talk about then, if that's what coaching is. So again, helpful to clarify for your folks in your organization what coaching is and coaching is not, so that they also are not carrying around those misassumptions because they're going to get in the way of your productive coaching culture. So a productive coaching culture has a ton of benefits. This is based on research. There's improved bench strength enhanced team and employee performance, and higher overall retention rates of valued staff, those folks you really want to keep. So think about how critical it is to develop the high potential candidates in your organizations who come from maybe less traditional backgrounds or who haven't had the same privileges as many of their peers. Coaching is this massive accelerant to their professional growth. It has this huge, huge benefits. Very highly engaging, just really like ups the engagement pretty much immediately. So a productive coaching culture is really in its essence, having a coaching mindset and coaching practices integrated throughout an organization. It's pretty simple at its core there, just having a coaching mindset and having some coaching practices integrated throughout the organization. And what that creates is really a culture, a place where, regardless of level, all your employees are empowered to learn and grow and develop to their fullest potential. It's a big deal. It also is risky. It's risky to have empowered people in your organization. Empowered people challenge things, and they make change. And so it can really shift things. And it's important to kind of know that going in, right? To know that you're inviting the risk of challenge. But the risk of not having a coaching culture or not even trying is losing your top talent and missing out on the contribution that is just there waiting to be unlocked. Like, the organization also risks diminished creativity, diminished innovation, less ownership of projects, less initiative taking, and way lower engagement. Coaching empowers everyone to lead within their role, regardless of whether they're in a traditional leadership role or not. Just everyone as a leader within the organization. So having a coaching mindset and coaching practices integrated throughout the organization is like rocket fuel for contribution and engagement. So let's talk about, okay, great. What do I need in place to make sure this happens? This is possible. We can even get started here. What elements are required to create and support a productive coaching culture? Well, it really starts with trust. People need to trust the person coaching them for coaching to work at all effectively. And people need to trust the agenda of the organization for bringing a coaching culture to life. So there needs to be trust between leadership and those being led for it to be safe to be coached, safe to be as vulnerable as you actually really need to be honest within a coaching session. It's not therapy. You don't need to pull up your entire childhood and have it examined. It's not that level of vulnerability, but it is vulnerable to talk about your leadership challenges and get coached on it. It's vulnerable to talk about what you're struggling with and what you're needing help with, right? So in order to have effective coaching, an effective coaching culture, there needs to be trust. So leaders can't coach on taking risks and then micromanage the process or punish failure. So it's a little like innovation this way. Organizations love the concept of innovation. And when push comes to shove and we try to put it into place and we realize for innovation to actually work, you have to embrace failure and allow for failure and learning from failure. This is the same thing. There needs to be space for mistakes. There needs to be space for learning from them. So relatedly, we need psychological safety within an organization for there to really be an effective, productive, valuable, productive coaching culture. And so psychological safety around coaching really means being clear on what is and what isn't confidential within that coaching conversation. So just being really transparent about whether anything is going to get shared back with that manager or outside of that conversation. That's a huge way to create psychological safety, is just be transparent with how confidentiality is or is not working. And being really clear about the purpose of coaching. Why is this valuable? What are you trying to fix us? Like, what's the goal here? Assume people are unclear on what coaching is and isn't, just as a starting place, and clarify with a purpose at coaching. and why that's something that's happening in your organization, why that shift. The other real critical way to create psychological safety is to see leaders embodying it. So leaders coaching, leaders being coached, leaders talking about coaching. So you need your leadership to be bought in. They're going to be your biggest influencers or underminers of a coaching culture, right? So one of the best ways is to have senior leaders directly involved, maybe your high potential leaders as well, the people who are the influencers in your organization, whoever they may be, have them experience coaching. They're being coached. They have been coached. Have them talking about coaching. Have them coaching others if that's appropriate. That's, something they're skilled to do. If they're really excellent at this, leading some coach training to really embody it. That leadership buy-in and influence is so powerful and so necessary. With it, you can go for miles, and without it, just an inch is a struggle. And finally, a growth mindset. So really, this is about embodying that learning culture, that not yet culture. So you may not have a coaching culture yet, but every little small step in that direction makes a huge, significant positive impact. And the folks on this line, in this webinar, you're often the ones responsible for embodying growth mindset, really like putting it into action. You've probably been doing this for years, if not decades already. And it can be really frustrating when you're the one championing it and championing the value of learning in all aspects and running up against resistance. So I just want to acknowledge the beautiful work you have done in promoting a growth mindset, in modeling a growth mindset, because it is the most beautiful foundation you can lay for amplifying it and bringing in a coaching culture. So thank you for your work in that. What else would you add? I want to hear from you. Go ahead and answer in the chat. Make sure it's sending to everyone. What elements at your organization, perhaps specifically, are required to create a productive coaching culture? One or two ideas. Maybe it's specific to your organization, what you need, or just in general, what you think might be necessary. Okay, seeing some skills. Yep. Awareness. Yes, self-awareness is a really key part of the coaching experience. So it's gonna need to be raised. Meeting in person. That's an interesting, Victor. That's an interesting comment. Meeting in person can drive a lot of comfort in being in a coaching situation. I will challenge that thought just a little bit. I would say 90% of my coaching is virtual, and it's interesting what a safe space the screen to screen can be. So don't underestimate it. That's all that to say. If you have the gift of being in person, great, go for it. But if you don't, this can be a beautiful tool as well. Even just the phone. The phone can be a beautiful way to get coaching done as well. Okay, education on what coaching is at large, beautiful. Resources to support. Amen to that. I hope, Krista, that you get those resources because that is true. Transparency and communication, absolutely, yes. Leadership modeling, yep. Being comfortable in change and development of self and others. Thank you, John. That is so true. There's a real opportunity to model this in your own comfort level in change. You don't have to love change. You just have to be willing, right? And your own self-development, your own self-awareness is part of the process of really bringing in a coaching culture as well. Having an always-on development mindset, Elizabeth. Thank you for that. Yeah, exactly. That's that growth mindset. Like everything is learning. Doesn't go right, still learning. Willingness to give away control. Peter, that's so true. There's a degree of giving up control. This is a bit like I was saying about innovation that is actually genuinely uncomfortable and feels risky, and maybe is risky. And so, yeah, that is a degree of something that might need to be addressed if you have folks who are uncomfortable sharing a bit of control. Ian, embedded into performance and management process, make it part of leadership development program milestones. Yep. For new leaders of leaders, amen to that. And coaching for all, not just executive level. That is so true. Lynn, thank you for calling that out. Yeah, it's traditionally, or at least where we've started here often with coaching, is the C-suite level gets it and nobody else, because they're just of funding or assumptions, really. Everyone can benefit from it. And gosh, I gotta say, particularly for your like high potentials, if you're trying to really diversify your C-suite, that's your goal for the next 5 to 10 years, coaching's how to do it. And you do it lower in the pipeline so that you're getting the folks who haven't had a chance to get that real one-on-one development. Embedded into the hiring process. I love that, Haley. Great call out. Absolutely. Even with your interview questions, those are often essentially empowering questions and can be empowering questions, right? All right, beautiful. Thank you so much for adding to this list. I appreciate it. I hope that's valuable to others as well. Let's talk about some big and little strategies to create that coaching culture now. My hope is that one of these, I'm going to present a number of bigger little ideas, will spark an idea for you. Either you want to try that idea or it just sparks your own idea of what would work really well at your organization, and you gets you on your way to create your own solution. That's my goal here. So how do we implement a productive coaching culture? Let's start by making it safe. What that means is clarifying what it is and what it isn't, just like we did at the beginning of our webinar. So what is coaching? What isn't it? Just assume people are walking around with wrong assumptions and make sure that everyone is really clear on the goal of it and what it is, and that it's not therapy, that it's not giving advice. And get those senior leaders directly involved. Get them coaching, like make sure they have experienced good coaching. Get them coaching others, get them communicating about it. That makes it safe for everyone else in the organization. If the leaders are doing it, that means it's okay. And empower all leaders, all levels of leaders at the same time. So it doesn't have to just be from the top, your middle leaders, your new leaders. They can leverage those skills they're learning anyway of listening actively, asking open-ended questions, showing empathy, providing useful feedback, clarifying goals. They can build on those skills as well. If you're able, reward it. So any way that this would make sense in your organization, reward participating in coaching, reward, providing coaching, just reward it and model it. This is key. And this is perhaps your big opportunity. Even if you don't have any other kind of control in your organization, you can model it. And I have a really specific suggestion for how one way to model it, which is to name the hat you're wearing. So people will often come to you with a challenge, or they have something they want help with. You can ask, okay, right now, do you want me to be your coach and ask you some questions and help you find your answer within yourself? Do you want me to be a mentor and tell you what worked for me? Do you want me to be a consultant and look at it from all the angles and give you my expert recommendation? Or do you just want some advice? It's a really simple process, but for one thing, it clarifies exactly how that person wants help from you, and you can then address that. You'd be amazed. Most often, they might just say they want advice. Okay, cool. Cut to the advice. Don't spend time with your empowering questions if that's not what they're wanting right then. Or it helps them clarify for them, like exactly what kind of help they would like. And at the same time, it's modeling something that they can do with their people as well. Modeling how they can name the hat they're wearing. Right now, do you want me to be a mentor, a coach, a consultant, or do you just want some advice? All right. Also, similarly, make it visible. Visibility makes it feel safe as well. So what I mean by that is integrate it into your regular communication. So any kind of regular company updates you have, bulletins, meetings, any of the communications where you can get it out, keep it a regular practice to be talking about coaching. Maybe you have a newsletter and has a coaching hour, spot within the newsletter every time. So there's something highlighted there. Maybe it's just a brief like report out at an all hands meeting of what's going on. Just integrate it. Just weave it into the communications. That makes it visible. It brings it back to mind. And if you're using it if you're using any kind of coaching questions, like just the concept of open-ended, empowering questions and listening actively, showcase how you're using that with your customers. Like, talk about that within your organization. How are you using just the coaching mindset, maybe even some coaching practices with your customers? Coaching is massively engaging. So you want to engage your customers, and it can be a great way to do that as well. It might be just as simple as looking at the questions you ask generally when you're first meeting with a client and pump them up. Is there a way to make them more open-ended? Is there a way to make them more empowering? Is there a way to practice your own listening skills with not just waiting to get to the next part in your conversation, but also listening intuitively to what you're hearing there, sharing some empathy. And make it easy. The easier it is, the more likely it's going to happen, right? So one of the very biggest ways you could make this easy for yourself and for your organization is just to allow your key stakeholders to experience good coaching. This is your, senior leaders, your high potentials, your influencers within the organization, those folks that other people follow. They become your champions and your models of it. And that's half the work right there. If they're modeling it, celebrating it, talking positively about it. So let them experience it. That's in all the research I was doing and kind of pulling ideas, that just kept coming up. Just let them experience it. Like someone said earlier in the chat, until you've experienced it, it's a little hard to talk about the great benefits that it has, right? So just let them experience it. And build on what you already have going on in life. So we all have meetings. So just start incorporating it into meetings. So this could be an all hands meeting. It could be a one-on-one meeting, whatever size or scope. In an all hands meeting, maybe you open with an empowered question and you have people pair up for 5 minutes and talk to each other what their responses are. In a small group meeting, you're just asking everyone to chime in. And just be practicing that and celebrating it. And it's okay if you don't get it right? Maybe you jump into giving advice and you didn't mean to, or someone else is jumping in to give advice, and maybe you just invite them to come back to an open-ended question. Provide leaders with follow-up questions. This is so specific to if you're perhaps in charge of training and workshops and stuff in your organization. Anytime there's a learning event that you really want to make sure that learning is embedded, you can provide the managers of those participants with, say, 1 to 3 questions for them to ask their participant after they return from that learning experience. So it could be just as simple as sending an email to those managers saying, hey, your participant was in my workshop, is going to be in this workshop this week. Here's 3 questions to ask after they attend. What's your key takeaway? What's one thing you want to try? And then maybe a question that's related specific to the content within that workshop. It just triggers for the manager, maybe they know they should be asking questions after a training, but it just gets them activated and make sure that they are actually taking action on that. And it makes it simple. You're feeding them the question. It's not hard for them to then go ahead and ask that question. You can do that for every training. Also, define coaching at your organization. It's going to look and feel something very specific for you and your organization based on the culture that's already there. So define it. What are the expectations? What have leadership demonstrate this? Because it's so much easier to live something out that you've seen witnessed. Choose a simple process. If you're going to have, some coaching practices, perhaps a coaching model, if that makes sense for your organization, choose a simple process. Simple is powerful. Clear is kind, as Brené Brown says. Just make it easy. Have a common language around coaching, and as often as you're able, provide upskilling opportunities, whether that's a formal workshop or it's just an email with some ideas or some, a leader panel, whatever it makes sense for your organization. Continue to offer ways to first build those skills in the first place if you're starting from the ground up, and then also kind of build on those as well as you're able to. I want to hear from you. What are some ideas that are sparking for you? Things you'd like to try, things you have tried, or just an idea you have, either that would make sense at your organization or for anyone. Go ahead and answer in the chat some other ideas you have for implementing a productive coaching culture. Make sure to pop that into everyone. Right. I used to say the 6 most powerful words you can use as a leader are, what do you need right now? I love that question. I like that as a life question too. Feel free to ask your people in your life that question too. What do you need right now? Okay, exploring coaching circles from John. Thank you. Yes, coaching circles are a super powerful way to get more people experiencing coaching. It doesn't have to all be one-on-one. Thank you for calling that out, John. Pascal says, like to provide leaders with follow-up questions. Great, great. It's a simple tool. It's free. Great to take advantage of. Thank you, Mwangi. Bringing in a human-centric approach. Absolutely. That is one of the beauties and the strengths of coaching, is that it is inherently respectful of the whole human. I think that's part of why it's so engaging and why it's so life-changing. Any other ideas we want to add to this list? If not, feel free to keep popping them in. I want to thank you for your beautiful contributions to this conversation, to these ideas we're gathering. Oh, I see a few more coming in. Brenda, when preparing for a meeting or discussion, getting them to use the GROW model to facilitate the conversation. Beautiful. Exactly. Simple, easy, followable. Chris, I thought of trying to create a process called Coaching Squared, where both participants are matched based on skills they might be considered an expert in. So if one is advanced in Excel and another advanced in project planning, they're matched and get 1 hour to each other. Ooh, I love that. That's lovely. Yep. You're empowering, you're helping each other. Very, very constructive and productive and beautiful. And walking coaching. Oh, John, yes. So great areas to be empowering to walk and talk. Absolutely. And always good to get out of your normal context if you have a chance. And you, again, this can be if your people are not physically in the same geography as you, you can walk and talk on a phone and coach. And it's actually very helpful to focus, right? To not have something in front of you all the time. Lynn, provide coaching materials based on common coaching topics. Beautiful. Love it. These are excellent. I'm so grateful for your time and your energy and your contribution to this conversation. I'm so grateful that you're looking out for your organization this way. Thank you. Your organization is so lucky to have you and have you on their side, really helping and support this coaching culture. Remember, it's not about perfection, right? It's not about getting to the 10 on that scale of being, excellent. It's really every little positive step creates such positive, ginormous impact. So even if there's just a 10% increase in comfort with the coaching culture, that's going to have a great big impact. Let's open it up for Q&A so we can hear more from you about your challenges and your opportunities and what's mattering to you.
Sounds good, Kristen. Not only thankful to them, but want to thank you for this great advice, this great discussion. I found it really interesting on my end, who's not really so deep into it. And I learned a lot. So thank you for your expertise in sharing it with us. We do have some questions that have coming through, so I want to make sure that we get them. I know we only have a few minutes. And I know you kind of covered about how to make it available, but there is a question that came through. Specifically, it says, what can we do to democratize coaching to make it available to everywhere, knowing we're not able to fund coaching for all?
Yeah. Fabulous question. So the few creative ways to do this, and it's going to be a little bit of, it depends on what your organization, appetite, budget, etc. There, you can think about trying to either you already have someone who's an internal coach, or you have someone who could be upskilled in that area, certified, supported. So leveraging an internal coach can give you a lot more freedom. You're not paying by hour for an external coach. That's one way. Think of that as a possibility. Coaching circles, I think it was John who brought that up earlier. Coaching circles are a great way to get more people exposed to coaching faster. And it has this really beautiful secondary bonus where people are learning from each other. So it's a great place for, like, if you're trying to break silos in your organization, having people from different organizations within a coaching circle is another wonderful way to do that. That's just a bonus. I don't know if I properly addressed your question. There's a couple of ideas for you there.
Great. There are questions coming through. So let's do this one. This is always the biggest one. This goes with anything you're trying to implement in your organization. How do you convince your senior leaders to buy into these things and invest their time and resources? Do you have the magic recipe for that, Kristen?
I do. No, I don't. I would make so much money if I did that, wouldn't I? So the key is to let them experience it. So find your most open-minded one and start there. Someone who's willing to try things and have them experience coaching. And they're gonna do the influencing for you. They will influence the rest of your leaders. To that end, make sure it's an effective coach that they are paired with, so that it's a very positive first experience, right? That's really truly going to be the easiest way. Just have them find your most likely to try or most willing to try. And if you need to, if they here's the stats: improve bench strength, overall retention of the valued staff, these things, they might need a little convincing of, like, here's why it's worth trying.
Great. I don't know if you have this out of your pocket, but maybe this could be a follow-up question in the email. Brenda wants to know, can you share a story about a client you've worked with that implemented a successful coaching strategy and the success they experienced?
That would be a good one for after, just because I can point you to a few case studies, but yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. So look out for my follow-up email, Brandon. We'll hopefully have some links in there for you that you can then take to leader and sell it.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, let me see. We just have a few more minutes. So if you have any questions, throw them in there. Here's a question from Krista. Can you talk about the difference between feedback and coaching? I've had all leaders say that they provide feedback all the time and think it's coaching.
Yeah, such a good call out, Krista. Thank you for naming that. Yeah, that's another good one in the clarifying what it is and isn't. Feedback and coaching may be part of the same conversation. They don't have to be completely distinct, but they are different, right? So feedback is what much more often I'm telling you something to follow. And coaching is much more, I'm going to ask you what your ideas here are, what else you can do, how you might want to change how you approach that or something. So I think if you have simple definitions, here's feedback, here's coaching, that's a great starting place. And you might need to remind a few times of what that is. And also, it's another thing you can name, like in your naming of the hat you're wearing right now. Right now, can I give you some feedback? Right now, can I coach? Right now, I want to be your coach and empower you. So naming it, being clear yourself in your own modeling, defining it, making sure that's out there and very evident and obvious for people, particularly when you get to, say, like review season and the topics of feedback and coaching might come up a little bit more often. Make sure it's really in your communications. Make sure that that's going out. There's a couple ideas.
Thanks, Kristen. There's a lot of questions coming through about how do we get these people to buy into it, leadership, and I think you kind of covered that a little bit, but I just wanted to also make sure that we get these other questions. So Laura says they're trying to make a coaching part of the culture, which is great. It means that it is not an event, it's a way of thinking, a way that leaders and others are expected to work with others. She's asking, are there any suggestions for how to achieve this? Any examples on how, to do that and to be an effective coach requires skill. How do we build that skill?
Yeah. So two different questions there.
Yeah.
The coaching, it sounds like you already have a real view on how to embody the mindset of coaching, which is so beautiful. And it's, if you've done any work within your organization on growth mindset, it's something to stack on top of that and help people see the connection to. It's kind of like one of those things you just have to start talking about it and make it visible. So it has been happening, but here is what has been happening. So talk about it really clearly of what is that meant like in your organization? When have you seen a leader embody that? Talk about that wherever and whenever your channel is. Whenever you can, bringing that into like interrupt a meeting and be like, okay, right now I just need to reset, and I'm going to switch from being like, this is what we need to do, and I want to switch to more of a coaching mindset. And you just name it. And as long as some people have some awareness of what that means, you've defined that for your organization, then they can jump on board with you as well. And then what was the secondary question?
How to build skills, effective coaching skills.
Yeah. So there's a number of options here, and this is going to be very much based on what your organization's appetite, abilities, size, all of that. So you can outsource it completely, right? Hire external vendors, external coaches. You could find who is already interested in this kind of thing and has a appetite and potential skill set for it internally, and get them certified, get them upskilled, get them the resources they need to become your internal coach. You could do a mix of both, have internal and external. Particularly if you're an extra large organization, that might make more sense. You can just try one of those things and see how it goes, and try another thing. So there's a lot of ways to, practically speaking, like how to actually put it into place. And we here at GP Strategies, of course, love to brainstorm with people on what makes sense for your organization, to what that could look like.
Great. So we are at time, but I have 2 quick questions for you that hopefully y'all stay on for just a couple minutes. Do you have a preferred self-assessment for coaching? I don't know.
Ooh, I do not.
Okay,
I do not.
good.
Yeah.
These are quick questions. So there
Okay.
also, there's somebody asked, there was what kind of, or examples would be for a good open-ended questions in a meeting? You had mentioned that as a tool. Do you have any quick, maybe 1 or 2 examples of a good question that we would open up?
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So let's vision you're at your team meeting, and you're at the beginning of that. Okay. So what are folks working on? Is kind of like your usual question people are reporting out. So a more empowering question could be like, okay, guys, what's a challenge you ran into this week that you learned from? Or what's something new you're encountering in your process this week or your project this week? What's most challenging to you today about XYZ? What obstacles are coming up for you as you try to push this project forward? Those are pretty simple ones, right? They're not like scientific questions. They're just getting people to open up, and there isn't one right answer. And there's going to be a lot of follow-up questions. The follow-up questions can also be empowering questions and open-ended questions. Tell me more about that. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Interesting. What are your insights? What are you learning about yourself in that process? Wow. And coaching isn't just questions, right? You can also be, as you're hearing people, be championing them, be celebrating like what they're sharing with you and the growth that they're obviously living out. Thank them for that. Show your gratitude for that. That is also part of coaching as well. That really empowers them, continues to empower them.
Great, Kristen. A lot of great information. I really appreciate you for such a great discussion. And thank everyone else who's joined us today for your time and attention. So we do ask at the end of the session, if you take a minute to fill out our survey. We always like to have your feedback to make us better. We also hope you'll join us again for another one of our upcoming webinars. So be sure to visit GP Strategies' website to view our future sessions. And with that, I wish everyone on the call a wonderful and productive rest of your day. And again, Kristen, I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today.
My pleasure. So great to have you all today.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
This webinar was brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we help organizations transform through their people. You can access more webinars or download additional resources by visiting the GP Strategies Resource Library. The link is on your screen and in the description.